Imagine for a moment that the greatest secret of spiritual awakening, the very key to unlock the mysteries of consciousness, has been hidden not outside, but deep within your own mind. Think of the possibility that the teachings of Jesus contained knowledge so profound that it could transform the way you see yourself, your purpose, and your connection to the divine. What if I told you that one of these secrets revolves around a mysterious organ in the center of your brain, the pineal gland, a gateway revered by mystics, philosophers, and seekers of truth for thousands of years? In this video, we will explore the hidden teachings of Jesus and their connection to awakening the pineal gland, also known as the seat of the soul. We will uncover how these ancient truths have been whispered through sacred texts, mystical traditions, and esoteric schools across the centuries. And I promise you, the final revelation will be the most powerful of all, one that could shift the way you understand life and the universe itself. Before we continue, if you feel drawn to these mysteries and long to awaken your inner potential, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share this video with others, and comment below what resonates with you. Together, we will dive into teachings that can change not only your perspective, but your very experience of reality. Now let us return to the words of Jesus. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. These words, recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, have stirred endless debates among scholars and mystics. Was Jesus speaking only of moral clarity, or was he pointing toward a deeper mystery, the awakening of the inner eye, the very center of illumination within the human being? The pineal gland has fascinated thinkers for centuries. René Descartes, the great philosopher, called it the seat of the soul. Ancient Egyptians depicted it symbolically as the eye of Horus. Hindu mystics associated it with the Ajna chakra, the third eye representing intuition and divine vision. Even within Christian mysticism, there are echoes of this teaching, the invitation to go beyond mere physical sight and awaken the spiritual perception that resides within. But why would Jesus point us toward the single eye? Because within the awakening of this hidden organ lies the capacity to transcend ordinary perception and glimpse the eternal. The pineal gland is not just a physical structure, it is a symbol and a portal. It is the meeting point between the human and the divine, between the material world and the unseen realms of spirit. Think about this. When Jesus spoke of the kingdom of heaven being within you, what did he truly mean? Was he urging us to look inward, to discover that the divine presence is not confined to temples or rituals, but exists as a living reality inside the sanctuary of our own consciousness? The pineal gland, long associated with light and awakening, may be the very lamp of which he spoke. Modern science has also uncovered fascinating aspects of this small organ. It regulates melatonin, influencing our cycles of sleep and wakefulness. But beyond its biological functions, mystics have long believed that it acts as a gateway into altered states of consciousness, dreams, visions, and even experiences of transcendence. Could it be that Jesus, through his cryptic words, was pointing us toward the same discovery? If this is true, then the words, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light," take on a whole new dimension. He was not simply speaking about morality or focus, but about illumination, a literal filling of the body with divine light, accessed through the awakening of the inner eye. Pause for a moment and reflect. What would it mean for you if the kingdom of heaven is not something to be reached after death, but something to be experienced here and now within your own being? Would it change the way you live, the way you see others, the way you face your daily struggles? Throughout history, secret traditions have preserved fragments of this truth. The Gnostics spoke of divine knowledge that awakens the inner spark. Hermetic teachings describe the eye that sees beyond illusion. And many mystics within Christianity quietly hinted that prayer and contemplation open a doorway not outward, but inward. Jesus, then, may have been revealing a path of inner illumination, one that requires us to turn away from distractions and awaken the single eye, the pineal gland, which becomes the lamp to fill the body and soul with light. And this is only the beginning. In the next part, we will go deeper into how the pineal gland was understood in ancient spiritual traditions and why Jesus' words connect directly with this hidden wisdom. We will uncover parallels across Egypt, India, Greece, and early Christianity that reveal a universal truth, that the human being is capable of perceiving divine reality, if only the inner eye is opened. To understand the true depth of Jesus' hidden teaching, we must journey back into the wisdom of ancient civilizations, for the pineal gland has long been at the center of humanity's quest for enlightenment. Imagine walking through the temples of Egypt, where sacred hieroglyphs reveal the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection, healing, and divine vision. When carefully examined, the Eye of Horus bears a striking resemblance to the structure of the human brain, particularly the pineal gland. Could this be coincidence? Or was it a deliberate reminder that the path to divinity begins with the awakening of the inner eye? In India, long before the time of Christ, sages spoke of the Ajna chakra, the energy center known as the third eye. This was not merely a metaphor but a spiritual reality, the point of inner vision, intuition, and higher consciousness. Hindu yogis practiced meditation, breath control, and devotion as ways to open this center, allowing the seeker to transcend ordinary perception and perceive the eternal truths hidden beneath the veil of illusion. The pineal gland, sitting quietly at the center of the brain, corresponds exactly to this sacred center of awakening. And in Greece, philosophers like Plato hinted at a higher faculty of perception beyond the senses. He spoke of the eye of the soul, an inner organ of vision that allows us to behold the eternal realities beyond the shadows of the material world. Later, the philosopher Plotinus, a great mystic of the 3rd century, described the soul as turning inward and upward, discovering light not outside but in the very core of its being. Again, the message is the same. To awaken to truth, one must open the hidden eye within. Now pause and consider. Jesus arrived into a world where these traditions were already circulating. Egypt with its mysteries, Greece with its philosophy, India with its spirituality, and Judaism with its deep mystical undercurrents. Could it be that he spoke a universal language, embedding truths that transcended cultural boundaries, yet cloaked them in parables and symbols so that only those with eyes to see would understand? When he said, "He that hath ears to hear, let him hear," perhaps he was pointing to the same principle, that not everyone would grasp the deeper message, for the truth was hidden in plain sight, accessible only to those willing to seek within. Consider also the striking image of Jacob in the Old Testament, who named the place of his encounter with God Peniel, meaning the face of God. Jacob declared, "I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." This is no trivial detail. The very word pineal echoes the pineal gland, a linguistic clue that suggests the ancients understood this center as the place of divine encounter. Is it possible that Jesus, steeped in the Hebrew scriptures, was carrying forward this mystical thread, pointing us to the same inner temple? Modern science, surprisingly, offers further insights. The pineal gland is sensitive to light, regulating our circadian rhythms. It produces melatonin, which governs sleep, and under certain conditions may release dimethyltryptamine, a substance linked to altered states of consciousness and visionary experiences. While science treads carefully around these mysteries, spiritual traditions have long insisted that the pineal gland is a gateway between dimensions, a bridge between the finite and the infinite. Now think about Jesus' transfiguration on the mountain, where his face shone like the sun and his garments became dazzling white. Could this event symbolize more than just a miracle witnessed by his disciples? Could it be a revelation of what happens when the inner eye is awakened, when the human body becomes full of light? If so, then his words in Matthew are not abstract poetry, but a direct teaching. Awakening the single eye fills the entire being with divine radiance. What would this mean for us today? It means that the path to spiritual awakening is not limited to ancient saints and mystics. It is available to you here and now. By turning inward, by seeking silence, by purifying thought and intention, one begins to stimulate the inner eye. And when it opens, life is never seen the same way again. This is why the mystics of every age insist on practices of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. For through these disciplines, the pineal gland is activated, and the seeker begins to see beyond appearances. Jesus himself withdrew to solitary places to pray. Could it be that these moments were not only of communion with the Father, but also demonstrations of how to quiet the mind and open the inner eye to the light within? Reflect for a moment. Have you ever experienced a sudden clarity, a moment where the world seemed brighter, more alive, as if a veil had been lifted? These glimpses, fleeting though they may be, are hints of what becomes a permanent reality when the inner eye fully awakens. And here lies the power of the hidden teaching. Jesus was not calling us to blind faith, but to direct experience of the kingdom of heaven within. He was pointing us to an awakening that does not depend on external rituals or authorities, but on the activation of the divine light inside each soul. But this raises an even deeper question. If these teachings are so powerful, why were they hidden and why have they been suppressed or ignored for centuries? In the next part, we will explore how and why these truths became veiled and what role secrecy and symbolism played in preserving them. We will see how the early church, mystical orders, and secret societies carried fragments of this knowledge, protecting it from corruption while ensuring it would survive for those ready to receive it. If the pineal gland truly is the inner eye of illumination, then why has this knowledge remained hidden or spoken of only in whispers? Why has such a transformative truth not been placed at the very center of mainstream religious teaching? To answer this, we must explore the history of secrecy and the role of symbolism in spiritual traditions. From the earliest times, sacred knowledge was never handed freely to the masses. The mysteries of Egypt were revealed only to initiates who underwent years of preparation. In Greece, the Eleusinian mysteries offered initiates glimpses of immortality, but always cloaked in strict silence. In India, the teachings of the chakras and kundalini energy were passed from guru to disciple in carefully guarded ways. The reason was not to hoard knowledge, but to protect it. Powerful truths in unprepared hands can be misused, misunderstood, or even corrupted. So it was with Jesus' teachings. He often spoke in parables, stories that seemed simple on the surface, but contained layers of meaning for those who had ears to hear. To the crowds, he gave bread and stories. To his disciples, he revealed secrets of the kingdom. The Gospel of Mark records Jesus saying, "Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables." This statement alone suggests that he was guarding a deeper wisdom, offering it only to those who were ready. As Christianity spread, however, something shifted. The early church faced political pressure, persecution, and eventually institutionalization. In the process, many mystical teachings were pushed aside in favor of dogma that was easier to regulate and control. The inward path of direct illumination was overshadowed by external rituals and creeds. Yet the flame of hidden knowledge never went out. It flickered quietly in the writings of mystics, in the practices of monastic orders, and in the symbols of secret societies that preserved fragments of the original message. Think of the great Christian mystics such as Meister Eckhart, Teresa of Avila, and John of the Cross. Their writings speak of an inner union with the divine, an experience of light and vision that goes far beyond conventional religion. They echoed what Jesus taught, that the kingdom of heaven is within, and that through stillness, silence, and surrender, one awakens to it directly. Though they rarely use the term pineal gland, their descriptions of inner illumination align perfectly with what happens when the single eye is opened. Even the architecture of cathedrals reveals clues. Look at the rose windows, perfectly circular, radiating light into sacred space. Look at the alignment of structures with the solstices and equinoxes, reminding us of cycles of light and darkness. Could these be silent testimonies, symbolic ways of pointing to the inner eye of illumination without speaking of it directly? Now let us ask, why was it so important to keep these truths alive, even if hidden? Because awakening the pineal gland, awakening the inner eye, restores direct contact between the human being and the divine. It bypasses the need for external mediation. It empowers the individual to experience God firsthand, without reliance solely on authority or institution. This kind of freedom is both liberating and threatening. It liberates the soul, but it threatens structures of control, and so the teaching lived on beneath the surface. The alchemists spoke of the philosopher's stone, the hidden treasure within the human being that brings transformation. The Kabbalists of Judaism spoke of the light that shines from within. The Sufis of Islam sang of the eye that sees the beloved in every face. Across cultures and centuries, the same truth emerges. The divine spark resides within, waiting to be awakened through the opening of the inner eye. But awakening the pineal gland is not merely about mystical vision. It is about transformation. When the inner eye opens, Perception shifts. Fear begins to dissolve, replaced by clarity and peace. The illusions of separation weaken, and one begins to see all beings as interconnected expressions of the same divine reality. This is why Jesus not only taught about the single I, but also about love, love of neighbor, love of enemy, love without limit. For once the inner eye opens, the illusion of separation crumbles, and the truth of oneness is revealed. Have you ever wondered why people who have profound spiritual awakenings often speak of overwhelming love, compassion, and unity? It is because the awakening of the pineal gland does not only bring light, it brings a new way of being. It is not about escaping the world, but about seeing the world with unveiled vision. Jesus modeled this perfectly. He healed, forgave, and embraced all, because his vision was rooted not in duality, but in divine unity. Now ask yourself, what would change in your life if your inner eye were opened? Would your fears still control you? Would anger and resentment still hold power over you? Or would you begin to see beyond them, into the deeper reality where peace and love reign? This is not a hypothetical. It is a possibility that lies within each of us. And so, the suppression of these teachings was not their end. The truth has always found a way to survive. And today, more than ever, seekers are rediscovering these hidden pathways. As science begins to explore the mysteries of consciousness, and as spiritual traditions speak more openly, the veil is thinning. Humanity is on the threshold of a great awakening, one in which the teachings of Jesus about the single I and the kingdom within will be understood in their full depth once more. In the next part, we will bring everything together. We will uncover the most powerful revelation of all, how awakening the pineal gland not only transforms the individual, but also connects us directly to the divine source, fulfilling Jesus' promise that greater works than these shall ye do. Prepare yourself, for the final truth may change not only how you see Jesus' message, but how you see your very self. We have journeyed through the hidden words of Jesus, the symbols of ancient civilizations, and the guarded wisdom of mystics and philosophers. All of it points to one profound truth. The awakening of the pineal gland, the single I, is the path to illumination, to divine communion, and to the realization of the kingdom of heaven within. And now, we arrive at the most powerful revelation of all, the truth that ties everything together. Jesus did not only speak about this awakening, he embodied it. Every miracle, every healing, every word of compassion flowed from his vision of divine reality. When he said, "The works that I do shall you do also, and greater works than these shall you do," he was not offering poetry. He was pointing to the extraordinary potential hidden within every human soul. The awakening of the inner eye is not reserved for saints, prophets, or mystics alone. It is the destiny of humanity itself. Think about what this means. The pineal gland, when activated, does more than provide flashes of light or mystical visions. It opens the doorway to a higher state of consciousness where we align with divine will. In this state, healing becomes possible, not only of the body but of the soul. Creativity flows in abundance, wisdom arises naturally, and love overflows without effort. This is the state Jesus lived from, and it is the state he invited us all into. Imagine for a moment what the world would look like if more people awakened this inner eye. Wars fueled by hatred would dissolve in the light of unity. Greed and fear would lose their grip, replaced by generosity and trust. Division would give way to oneness. For those who see with the single eye recognize no boundaries between self and other. Could this be the very vision of the kingdom of heaven that Jesus proclaimed? Not a place beyond the stars, but a new way of being here on earth? The mystics tell us that awakening the pineal gland is both a grace and a discipline. It requires stillness, silence, and sincerity of heart. Practices such as meditation, prayer, fasting, and contemplation purify the mind and body, preparing the ground for the inner eye to open. But ultimately, it is not by force that the awakening comes, but by surrender. When we release our illusions, when we let go of the ego's grip, the light naturally begins to shine. This is why Jesus taught humility, forgiveness, and love. These were not moral instructions only, they were keys. Forgiveness cleanses the heart of bitterness, making space for light. Humility dissolves the ego's arrogance, allowing truth to enter. Love aligns us with the very essence of God, for God is love. These qualities are not merely virtues. They are the very vibrations that awaken the inner eye. Now consider this. The pineal gland sits in the center of the brain, aligned with the geometry of the human body. It is as though creation itself designed a hidden temple within us, a sanctuary where heaven and earth meet. And just as the ancient temples of stone were aligned with the stars to channel divine light, so too is this inner temple aligned to receive light from the divine source. Could this be why Jesus said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up"? The true temple was never made of stone. It is the living temple of the human being, illuminated when the inner eye opens. Pause for a moment and reflect deeply. What if everything you seek outside, truth, peace, love, fulfillment, has been waiting within you all along? What if the kingdom of heaven is not a distant reward, but a present reality, veiled only by your perception? And what if the key to unveiling it lies in awakening the pineal gland, the lamp of the body, the single eye that fills you with light? This is the final and greatest revelation. Jesus' hidden teaching was not meant to remain hidden forever. It was preserved, encoded, whispered, and passed through the ages because it holds the key to humanity's transformation. And today, as more and more people awaken, the time has come for these truths to shine openly once more. The message is simple, yet profound. Awaken your inner eye, and you will see. See beyond illusion. See beyond fear. See beyond separation. You will see the divine light that permeates all things. You will see yourself not as a fragment, but as an expression of the eternal whole, and in that seeing you will be transformed. This is why Jesus said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." He was giving us a map to the kingdom within. He was inviting us to become vessels of light, radiating the divine into the world. And when enough souls awaken to this truth, the kingdom of heaven will no longer be a hidden reality, but a living reality, manifest on earth. So I ask you now, are you ready to awaken? Are you willing to look within, to seek the light, to open the eye of your soul? If so, the path is before you, and the words of Jesus will guide you every step of the way. Remember, this is not theory, it is experience. It is the difference between hearing about light and seeing it, between believing in God and knowing God directly. The pineal gland, the single eye, is the bridge, and once it opens, there is no turning back, for the truth revealed is eternal. If this message has stirred something within you, if you feel the call to explore these mysteries more deeply, then share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with others who are seeking. For the more we awaken together, the brighter the light becomes for all humanity. The hidden teachings of Jesus are not hidden any longer. They are alive, waiting within you, waiting to be awakened. The kingdom of heaven is within. The eye is ready to open, and when it does, your whole being will be filled with light. Thanks for looking.